Single dad CEO accidentally sends his daughter to the wrong daycare, only to meet the woman who will change his life. Nathaniel Carter's morning had already spiraled into chaos. The shrill ring of his phone had jolted him awake at 5:30 a.m., his assistant reminding him of the critical board meeting scheduled for later that day. Between reviewing last-minute reports and fielding urgent emails, he barely had time to breathe, let alone prepare his 4-year-old daughter, Lily, for daycare. Now, as he maneuvered his sleek black Audi through the congested streets of New York, he glanced at Lily in the backseat through the rearview mirror. She was humming a tune softly, her tiny hands clutching her stuffed rabbit. "All right, sweetheart," he said, pulling up to the daycare. "We're here." Lily blinked, staring at the unfamiliar building with wide eyes. "But Daddy, this isn't my school." Nathaniel barely registered her words. His mind was already racing ahead to the conference call he needed to take in exactly 10 minutes. "I know, baby," he said, unbuckling her seatbelt. He knelt in front of her, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "We're trying a new place today, okay? You'll have so much fun." Lily hesitated, glancing around. The colorful sign above the entrance read Little Wonders Daycare, but it wasn't the place she was used to. "But what if I don't like it?" she asked, her voice small. Nathaniel smiled, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead. "You'll be fine, Lily. I promise." With that, he handed her off to a waiting staff member, barely sparing a second glance as he rushed back to his car. He had no idea he had just made a terrible mistake. Amelia Brooks had always believed that children had an instinct for people's true nature. So when Lily Carter walked into Little Wonders Daycare, gripping her stuffed rabbit like a lifeline, Amelia knew immediately this little girl didn't belong here. The first red flag: she wasn't on the student list. The second: the man who had dropped her off had practically sprinted out the door, not bothering to double-check a single detail. Frowning, Amelia crouched down to Lily's level. "Hey there, sweetheart, what's your name?" Lily's big brown eyes flickered with hesitation before she whispered, "Lily Carter." Amelia's heart clenched. The girl was clearly nervous. "Well, Lily, it looks like we weren't expecting you today. Do you know your teacher's name?" Lily shook her head, squeezing the rabbit tighter. Amelia pulled out the emergency contact list and dialed the listed guardian number. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. She sighed. This was exactly why she hated dealing with high-profile parents. They always assumed someone else would handle things for them. Realizing she had no immediate way of reaching Lily's father, Amelia softened. "How about this? You stay with me today, and we'll figure things out when your daddy comes back, okay?" Lily nodded slowly. And so, Amelia spent the entire day with Lily, helping her with arts and crafts, reading stories, and even sitting with her during lunch when she refused to eat alone. By the time the afternoon rolled around, Lily had opened up, laughing and playing with the other children. Amelia, however, was not looking forward to the inevitable confrontation with the man who had left his daughter behind without a second thought. Nathaniel strode into the daycare with a controlled sense of urgency. He had barely made it through his last meeting when a voicemail from an unknown number had come through, one that made his stomach drop. "Mr. Carter, this is Amelia Brooks from Little Wonders Daycare. Your daughter was dropped off at our facility by mistake this morning. I've been trying to reach you all day. Please call me back immediately." How could this have happened? His assistant had confirmed Lily's daycare drop-off location the night before. As he stepped inside, his sharp gaze scanned the room until it landed on a woman standing with Lily, arms crossed, watching him with an expression that was both unimpressed and challenging. Nathaniel immediately recognized the frustration in her eyes. She wasn't happy with him. Neither was Lily. The little girl pouted as soon as she saw him. "Daddy, you put me in the wrong school." Nathaniel exhaled, kneeling in front of her. "I know, sweetheart. That was Daddy's mistake. I'm sorry." Lily huffed, crossing her tiny arms. "I like it here." He barely had time to process that before the woman, Amelia, cleared her throat. "You must be Nathaniel Carter," she said, her voice even but edged with disapproval. "The man who didn't bother answering his phone all day." His head snapped up, brows furrowing. "I had back-to-back meetings." Amelia didn't flinch. "And I had a scared little girl who didn't know why she was here. Tell me, Mr. Carter, what exactly was so important that you couldn't check your phone when your daughter needed you?" Nathaniel felt an unfamiliar pang of guilt. "I appreciate you taking care of her," he said coolly, keeping his emotions in check. "But this was an accident. It won't happen again." Amelia raised an eyebrow. No, it won't. Because next time I won't just call, I'll report it to Child Services. His jaw tightened. No one talked to him like that. But before he could fire back a retort, Lily reached for Amelia's hand, looking up at her with complete trust. And that's when something shifted inside Nathaniel. Lily was comfortable with this woman. More than that, she liked her. For the first time in years, Nathaniel Carter found himself at a complete loss for words. And Amelia Brooks, she had just become the one woman he wouldn't be able to ignore. The moment Nathaniel carried Lily out of Little Wonder's daycare, she made her displeasure clear. "Daddy, I want to come back here tomorrow," she declared, her tiny hands gripping his suit sleeve. Nathaniel frowned as he secured her in the car seat. "Lily, this isn't your daycare. Your school is across town." "But I like it here," she pouted. "Miss Amelia is nice." Nathaniel exhaled, already feeling a headache coming on. "I'm sure she is, but you have friends at your real daycare." Lily shook her head, her curls bouncing. "Miss Amelia played with me, and she read my favorite book twice." He barely refrained from rolling his eyes. He still wasn't entirely sure what to make of Amelia Brooks. Yes, she had taken care of Lily in his absence, but she had also called him out in a way no one else ever dared to. And yet, something about the way Lily clung to the idea of returning gave him pause. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him with those wide brown eyes, the ones that always made him weak. "Please, Daddy," she whispered, "just one more day." Nathaniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. Just one more day. What was the worst that could happen? The next morning, Nathaniel found himself back at Little Wonder's daycare, leading a beaming Lily through the doors. Amelia looked up from where she was kneeling beside a group of toddlers, her gaze landing on him with a flicker of surprise. "Back so soon?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. Nathaniel straightened his tie. Lily insisted. Amelia smirked. Smart girl. He opened his mouth to respond, maybe with a sarcastic remark, but Lily was already running toward the play area, leaving them alone. A beat of silence stretched between them. Nathaniel finally spoke, his voice measured. "I'm letting her stay for a few days." Amelia tilted her head, arms crossing over her chest. "And you trust me with that?" Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Did he?" "I trust my daughter," he said simply. "And she seems to trust you." Something flickered in Amelia's expression, something unreadable. Fair enough. For the next few days, Nathaniel kept his distance. He arrived at the same time every morning, dressed in crisp suits, barely saying more than a polite nod to Amelia before leaving. But he watched, always watched. And what he saw began to chip away at his initial perception of her. One afternoon, he arrived early to pick up Lily and found Amelia sitting with the children in a reading circle. Lily was curled up beside her, listening with rapt attention as Amelia read Goodnight Moon. But it wasn't just the reading. It was the way Amelia engaged them, the way she gave each child attention and warmth. Nathaniel stood frozen near the doorway, something unfamiliar tightening in his chest. When the story ended, Lily turned and spotted him, her face lighting up. "Daddy," she called, running over. Amelia looked up as well, catching his gaze. For the first time since they met, Nathaniel didn't see defiance in her eyes. He saw understanding. And that realization shook him more than he cared to admit. Nathaniel wasn't sure why he arrived at Little Wonder's daycare earlier than usual. He told himself it was just a free moment in his schedule, a coincidence. But as he stepped inside, pausing at the doorway, he realized it had nothing to do with time. It had everything to do with her. Across the room, Amelia sat cross-legged on the rug, surrounded by children, her voice soft and animated as she read Where the Wild Things Are. The kids hung on to every word, their faces full of wonder. And there, nestled against Amelia's side, was Lily, her tiny hands gripping the fabric of Amelia's sweater, as if she had always belonged there. Nathaniel should have interrupted, should have announced his presence, but instead he stood there, watching. Watching as Amelia brushed a strand of hair from Lily's face, her touch gentle. Watching as Lily leaned into her warmth, utterly content. A warmth spread through his chest, something foreign, something dangerous. For years, Nathaniel had kept his world controlled, orderly. There was no room for distractions, for emotions. And yet, he felt something shift, and he wasn't sure if he was ready for it. A week later, it happened again. Nathaniel arrived to find Lily fast asleep on Amelia's lap, her tiny body curled up against her, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Amelia was stroking Lily's hair absent-mindedly, whispering a lullaby. For a moment, Nathaniel didn't move. He had spent the past 4 years raising Lily alone, ensuring she had everything she needed, except this: the warmth of a mother's embrace, the security of being held. His throat tightened. He had convinced himself that Lily was fine without it. But seeing her there, resting so peacefully in Amelia's arms, he knew he had been lying to himself. And for the first time in years, Nathaniel felt something he never allowed himself to feel: longing. Nathaniel wasn't a man who let himself dwell on personal matters. But something about Amelia lingered in his thoughts: the way she was with Lily, the way she carried herself, the way her eyes held a depth he couldn't quite understand. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, he found himself doing something he never did: looking her up. It didn't take long to find an article buried in the archives. Tragic car accident claims lives of Brooks family. Only daughter survives. Nathaniel stared at the screen, his pulse steady but his mind spinning. Amelia had lost her entire family in a single moment. And yet, instead of breaking, she had built a life caring for children, offering them the love she had lost. Something inside him twisted. He wasn't sure what unsettled him more: the weight of her past, or the realization that he was allowing himself to care. Nathaniel had spent years keeping his emotions locked away, ensuring that his world remained professional, distant. He had convinced himself that love, real, all-consuming love, was a liability. And Amelia, she was the greatest threat to that belief. So he did the only thing he knew how to do. He pulled away. Amelia noticed it immediately. The change in Nathaniel's demeanor. The way his gaze lingered on her less often. The way his voice held a sharper edge when he spoke to her. At first she thought she had imagined it. But as the days passed, she realized it wasn't just in her head. He was distancing himself. And the worst part, she didn't know why. Then, one rainy afternoon, fate intervened. Nathaniel's car broke down outside the daycare. Amelia had been cleaning up for the day when she saw him standing in the rain, inspecting the engine with frustration clear on his face. Before she could think twice, she stepped outside with an umbrella. "You'll catch pneumonia if you keep standing there like that," she called out. Nathaniel looked up, rain dripping from his dark hair, his suit already soaked. "Car trouble?" she asked, tilting her head. He exhaled. "Apparently." She hesitated for only a second before offering, "Come inside, at least until the tow truck arrives." He looked like he wanted to refuse, but then he glanced at the sky, sighed, and followed her in. Inside, the daycare was quiet, the children already gone for the day. Amelia handed him a towel and a steaming cup of tea. "I don't drink tea," Nathaniel muttered. Amelia smirked, sitting across from him. "You do now." For the first time in weeks, they sat together without barriers, without tension. And for the first time, Nathaniel found himself not wanting to leave. Nathaniel Carter prided himself on being a man of control. Control over his business, control over his time, control over his emotions. But Amelia Brooks had thrown all of that into chaos. Ever since that rainy afternoon in the daycare, where they had sat together in easy silence, he had felt something shift, something dangerous, something uncontrollable. He found himself thinking about her at odd moments, wondering what she was doing, how her day was going, what she looked like when she wasn't surrounded by children but simply being herself. And that terrified him. He wasn't supposed to feel this way. He had spent years ensuring his life was structured, free of personal entanglements. Lily was the exception, his only exception. So Nathaniel did what he had always done when faced with something that threatened his carefully built walls. He pulled away. His greetings became shorter. His eye contact with Amelia became fleeting. If he had once lingered at the daycare for an extra 5 minutes just to watch Lily play, now he was in and out in under 60 seconds. And the worst part, he could see the way it hurt her. Amelia wasn't naive. She noticed the change immediately. The warmth that had once existed between them, gone. The quiet smiles, no longer there. And yet, she never confronted him about it. Because deep down, she already knew. Nathaniel Carter wasn't running from her. He was running from himself. Amelia had never been one to chase after people who didn't want to stay. She had learned that lesson the hard way, when life had taken everyone she loved from her in one cruel instant. So when Nathaniel started keeping his distance, she didn't fight it. She didn't demand an explanation. She simply accepted it. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Because somewhere along the way, without meaning to, without even realizing it, she had fallen for him. She had fallen for the way he looked at Lily, not just as a father, but as a man who wanted to give his daughter the world. She had fallen for the way his voice softened when he said thank you that night in the daycare, as if kindness was something foreign to him but precious all the same. She had fallen for the man who hid his heart behind steel walls but, for a brief moment, had let her peek inside. And now, he was shutting her out. So Amelia made her choice. She pulled away, too. She stopped staying late in the afternoons when she knew Nathaniel might arrive. She avoided meeting his eyes whenever he did come. If he wanted distance, she would give it to him. But someone else noticed the shift. Lily. The little girl was sharp, perceptive in a way most adults underestimated. "Miss Amelia," Lily said one afternoon, her small hands gripping the hem of Amelia's sweater. "Why doesn't Daddy smile at you anymore?" The question hit Amelia harder than she expected. She forced a smile, kneeling down to meet Lily's innocent gaze. "Oh, sweetheart, your daddy's just very busy." Lily pouted. "But he used to laugh when he saw you, and now he just looks sad." Amelia's heart squeezed. She wanted to tell Lily the truth, that sometimes adults made things more complicated than they needed to be. That sometimes fear got in the way of happiness. But Lily was just a child. And Amelia. Amelia was just the woman who had let herself fall for a man who wasn't ready to love her back. Nathaniel had spent his entire life making calculated decisions. Yet, as he sat on the edge of Lily's bed, tucking her in for the night, he realized he had never felt more lost. Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit close, blinking up at him with sleepy eyes. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart?" She hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you love Miss Amelia?" Nathaniel's breath caught. His entire body tensed at the question, as if she had just exposed a truth he wasn't ready to face. "Why would you ask that, Lily?" he said carefully. Lily pouted. "Because when you used to see her, you smiled, but now you don't, and she looks sad too." Nathaniel exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand down his face. This was his 4-year-old daughter, the person who saw straight through him, even when he refused to see himself. And she was right. Nathaniel had been avoiding the truth, avoiding his feelings. Because the truth was, he did love Amelia. He loved the way she cared for Lily. He loved the way she challenged him. He loved the way her laughter made the world feel lighter. But most of all, he loved who he was when he was with her. And he had been a fool for running away. He leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to Lily's forehead. "Thank you, baby girl." "For what?" she yawned. "For reminding me what really matters." The next morning, Nathaniel didn't go to work. Instead, he went straight to Little Wonder's daycare. The moment he stepped inside, the room went quiet. The children playing near the reading area froze, their wide eyes locking onto him. And then he saw her. Amelia was standing near a group of kids, reading a picture book aloud. When she looked up and saw him, her expression shuddered instantly. "Nathaniel," she said cautiously, closing the book. "What are you doing here?" Every fiber in his body told him to be careful, that this wasn't the time or place. But he had wasted too much time already. "I need to talk to you," he said. "In private," Amelia added, her voice guarded. But before she could step away, Nathaniel shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "I need to say this here." A few children gasped dramatically. Some of the staff exchanged looks, but Nathaniel didn't care. "I was afraid," he admitted, stepping closer. "Afraid of what it meant to care about you. Afraid of what would happen if I let you in." Amelia's breath hitched. Nathaniel swallowed hard, his voice lower now, more vulnerable. "But you were right, Amelia. I was running. I was convincing myself that keeping my distance was the safest choice." His eyes softened as they met hers. "But then I realized something." She swallowed. "What?" Nathaniel exhaled, his entire world narrowing down to her. "I'm more afraid of living without you." The room was silent. Amelia's lips parted slightly, as if she wasn't sure she had heard him correctly. But Nathaniel meant every word. "I love you, Amelia," he said, finally speaking the truth he had been too afraid to admit. "And I don't want to run anymore." A single tear slipped down her cheek. And then, to his absolute relief, she smiled. For the first time in weeks, Amelia let herself feel everything. The fear, the longing, the love. And as she looked at Nathaniel standing there completely open, completely raw, she knew. This wasn't just a man who had finally let his guard down. This was the man she had been waiting for all along. With a shaky breath, she whispered, "You idiot." Nathaniel blinked. "I what?" She laughed through her tears and took a step forward, wrapping her arms around him. "You love me?" she murmured against his chest. His arms circled around her, holding her close. "Yeah," he breathed. I really do." And for the first time in his life, Nathaniel Carter knew exactly where he belonged. Right here, in Amelia's arms. The laughter of children filled the air at Little Wonder's daycare, blending with the warm afternoon sunshine streaming through the windows. Amelia stood in the middle of the playroom, watching a group of toddlers build a castle out of wooden blocks. Her heart swelled with happiness. This daycare had been her life's work, her passion, and now it was home in more ways than one. "Miss Amelia, Daddy's here." Lily's excited voice rang across the room, and Amelia turned just in time to see Nathaniel Carter stepping inside. Dressed in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, he looked as confident as ever, but there was something softer in his eyes now, something only she got to see. Lily ran to Amelia, grabbing her hand. "Come on, Miss Amelia. Daddy has a surprise." Amelia chuckled, allowing the little girl to pull her forward. "A surprise?" Nathaniel stopped a few feet away, slipping his hands into his pockets, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Lily, sweetheart, do you think you can give me a moment alone with Miss Amelia?" Lily giggled but nodded. "Okay, but don't take too long, I want to see the surprise too." She darted off to join her friends, leaving Amelia and Nathaniel standing in the middle of the daycare, surrounded by colorful walls and tiny chairs. Amelia raised an eyebrow. "All right, Carter, what's going on?" Nathaniel took a deep breath, then dropped down on one knee. Amelia's breath hitched. The entire daycare went silent as little eyes turned toward them, whispering excitedly. Nathaniel pulled out a small velvet box and flipped it open, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "Amelia Brooks," he said, his voice steady, but filled with something raw and real. "A year ago, I walked into this daycare thinking I was just dropping my daughter off at the wrong place. Instead, I found the right place. The right person." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "You changed everything," Nathaniel continued. "You showed me what it means to love, to trust, to build something real. And I don't want to spend another day without you by my side." He exhaled, looking up at her with pure, unguarded love. "So, Amelia, will you marry Mary?" A small gasp rippled through the daycare. The children, the teachers, even Lily, all were holding their breath, waiting for her answer. Amelia let out a shaky laugh, covering her mouth with one hand before nodding furiously. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, "Yes, Nathaniel. 1,000 times yes." A cheer erupted from the children as Nathaniel slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. Lily practically tackled them, hugging them both. "We're going to be a family." Nathaniel kissed the top of his daughter's head, his gaze locking onto Amelia's. "We already are." And for the first time in his life, Nathaniel Carter knew he had everything. 1 year later, the sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the air as Amelia leaned against Nathaniel's shoulder, their hands intertwined. Their wedding had been a beautiful, intimate ceremony by the ocean, surrounded by the people they loved most. And now, as they sat on the back porch of their beach house, watching Lily chase seagulls along the sand, Amelia placed a hand on her growing belly. Nathaniel noticed the movement immediately, turning to her with a soft smile. "He's kicking," Amelia whispered. Nathaniel placed his hand over hers, feeling the gentle movement. His throat tightened with emotion. "A son," he murmured. "We're having a son." Amelia smiled, leaning into him. "A little brother for Lily. A perfect addition to our family." Nathaniel kissed her temple, pulling her closer. He had spent so many years believing that love was a distraction, that opening his heart would only lead to pain. But now, with Amelia in his arms, their daughter laughing in the distance, and their unborn child kicking against his palm, he knew he had never been more wrong. Because this was everything. Nathaniel Carter thought he had everything: wealth, power, success. But it took one wrong daycare, one incredible woman, and one loving daughter to show him what truly mattered. Amelia Brooks never expected that a simple mistake would lead her to the love of her life. But love has a way of finding us when we least expect it, in the laughter of a child, in the warmth of an unexpected embrace, and in the quiet moments where hearts learn to trust again. Nathaniel, Amelia, and Lily found their way to a family they never knew they were missing. And in the end, love didn't just change their lives, it completed them. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss another heartwarming tale that reminds us all, sometimes the most beautiful love stories come from the most unexpected places. Because love, no matter how it begins, always finds its way home.